Good afternoon, good morning, everybody. This is the Spartan speaking. Happy Friday, September 29th, day 583 of Vladimir Putin's failed special military operation. Wanted to go over as we always do, I wanted to start off going over the losses that the Russian military has suffered over the last 24 hours. Just just a little side note. I'm not sure if any of you out there have ever had the experience where you've either on your phone, your tablet, or your PC, and specifically I'm talking about my PC, where you have so many tabs open, so many applications open that you know that like the performance is suffering, but you don't want to close everything down because you've kind of got everything the way you want it, and you've got a bunch of little resources or things open, and so that's where I am right now. So it says my signal's good. Hopefully it's good. But if anything lags or whatever, I'm not going to cop out and blame the interweb or Russians or anything else. It's probably me because I've strained my computer to the max at the moment. I can't even tell you how many tabs I have open and things I have open, and if you hear a funny noise in the background, it sounds like a wheezing sound. My dog is snoring. I don't have the heart to wake him up. So let's get into it. So to start with, over the last 24 hours, Russia's reported loss in manpower is 340. Now, this information is it's as accurate as they can make it. What I did want to say is in the southern front, specifically around Robotyne, there is like a huge vacuum of information, a cone of silence from the Ukrainian standpoint. So really, all you get is basically mappers, rumors, some images shared, that sort of thing, like shelling or whatever, reports of things happening. But you don't actually, we're not getting a lot of actually like sort of first person military approved updates on what's going on in the southern front. So I think a lot is going on the southern front just based on the sort of anecdotal and secondary information that we're receiving. So something to keep an eye on. But anyways, that could relate to the 340 men because I believe your Russians are definitely defending aggressively. The Ukrainians are definitely pushing aggressively in various fronts, and yet the count of lost troops has been below 400 for I think 4 days straight, something like that. Anyway, so something to keep an eye on. We'll focus on that more a little bit later. But 8 tanks, which actually is a bit of an uptick. It's actually a half decent number. Tells me that either the Ukrainians have pushed far enough into certain areas where they've exposed some tanks that were basically being husbanded in the background, and or the Russians maybe are pushing back in certain areas and bringing out their heavy equipment and more expensive equipment. Andrew Perpetua has released a report too, and I think some of the tanks are kind of on their higher end, like T-90As, that sort of thing, which are expensive tanks, and they don't have a ton of them. 34 artillery systems, which is fantastic. Each one of these could comfortably shoot 20 to 100 shells a day. Let's say the Russians had all the shells that they needed. So you can do the math there. Call it, I don't know, call it 60 shells. 60 shells, what's that, 1,800? 1,900? 1,900 shells that are not going to be landing on the Ukrainians from these particular systems, from light mortars all the way up to the big boys. 1 MLRS, 1 anti-aircraft warfare system, 34 drones. That's not good. It is good that they were all shot down. These were Russian attacks from 36 hours ago or so. Each one of these drones can weigh from 10, 15 pounds all the way up to the Shaheeds that are a couple 100 pounds. So if they're being shot out of the sky, they're landing on things, people, that sort of thing. But at the same time, it's better to shoot them down, obviously. Russia has lost 879 artillery pieces. I kind of made some noise about them breaking 1,000 this month. I really thought they were going to. I jumped back to September 1st, looked at the report then and what they're at now. They're at 879, I think. So I think it's 2 more days of reporting, 30 a day. They're going to be short by about 60 or so, maybe, who knows, but 60 to 70 artillery pieces, but still. it's just astounding to lose 879 artillery pieces. Most militaries on the planet do not have 879 military artillery pieces in their possession at the moment that are active. Anyways, and yeah, that is it for the losses, sitting at 88.4 billion in total dollar value. So for the thumbnail, yes, the Russian air defense shot down an Su-35. This is an expensive plane. This is a rare plane. It was shot down in Tokmak, which is in the southern area, south of Robotine, how we all say it different. Sometimes I say it different on the same day. I don't think there's any volume on this anyways. So here's the Russian air defense. I don't know which system it was, not that it really matters. Here's the Russian air defense firing off at the Russian plane. And it's not the best quality, but there's the strike, there's the hit, and there, so you can see this went straight up, struck it there, and then the plane is falling and breaking apart in pieces. And at the moment, these Russians believe that they have done a great job shooting down a Ukrainian jet plane that for some reason would have flown all the way south of the front lines and flown all the way to Tokmak. Does that make sense to you? So it comes down to like fog of war, poor training, poor communication, etc. But and there should be a FOF, friend or foe indicator on the plane that the air defense system should be able to use, and I say should, which basically would indicate that it's a friendly plane and don't shoot. They either ignored it. Sometimes the Russians turn it off because they want to sneak up on the border and they want you to delay shooting them down because there's no FOF. Who knows? Anyway, so there's a still shot of the impact and the falling plane way off in the distance. There's the underside of an SU. Now, what the Su-35, it is an expensive plane. It is a rare plane, like I said. It started development in 1988, and the last one was built in 1995. It is a $43 million plane. How many of them are there? Do they have hundreds of them? Do they have dozens of them? No. They built 12. They have 12 of these things, and they don't have 12 anymore because at least a couple have been shot down. It's a gorgeous... does this qualify as a 5th generation? I don't think it really matters anyways, but I think it's 4th generation. Yeah, I think it would be kind of like a high-end 4th generation plane as far as the Russians go. This has been nicknamed so it started off as an Su-27, then it migrated to the 35. It was called, the SUs are called flankers, like the Su-24, 27 flanker, and then it morphed into the super flanker. All really doesn't matter, but this is basically the top of the heap, the top of the depth of the gene pool as far as Russian aviation goes. And there's one other one that's more modern than the Su-35, which is the Su-37. That is their 5th generation. I think they've got 4 of them maybe that can fly. So something like that. But anyways, I might be getting my numbers wrong there. But good job. And he was not expecting to be shot down, and the air defense didn't recognize him, and he may have had his indicators turned off and scratched one plane. Oh, yeah, by the way, I did want to say I am still a little bit miffed at the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense purporting and that sort of thing, because I know for a fact that there were several planes that were damaged or destroyed and helicopters that were damaged and destroyed on the runways. And they have not ever shown up in here. I don't know if they ever will now. I also showed you probably 2 or 3 different videos of A couple of confirmed, and then a couple more reported. I think it totaled 6 riverine boats that were destroyed 100% for sure, reported by frontline staff. So I'm not quite sure why they didn't show up in those reports, but they're not there. Anyways, it is what it is. So, on the Institute for the Study of War, Russian and Ukrainian officials are increasingly reporting fewer Russian ground attacks in the Kupiansk Lyman directions. If you remember, there was a big push over here in the east a while ago, the north and the east by the Russians. And again, there was all those rumors of 100,000 plus fresh troops ready to go that were going to storm the lines. It was ridiculous. But anyways, they probably did have some conscripts up there or some rotating troops. And depending on the area that you grabbed on the front line, it could total 100,000. They weren't fresh. They weren't mechanized. They weren't ready to go. And so, indicating that Ukrainian offensive operations have drawn Russian forces away from the Kupiansk Svatove Crimea line and significantly degraded the Russian offensive on this line. So basically, all of the pushing and successes that the Ukrainians have had in the south, there was known intelligence basically showing that in the east, the Russians were moving troops, pulling troops away, ceasing offensives. But it's robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? Because the fact that there's also the Ukrainians were having success around Konstantinivka, Seversk, all of the areas below Bakhmut, they were basically pushing, they still are pushing there as well and having success. So the Russians are basically saying, okay, where can we do the least amount of damage by pulling away the most amount of troops and being able to put those in to plug some holes. And the holes are getting bigger and bigger and more of them. And the Russians are not able to basically fill those vacancies, if you want to call it that, with capable troops. So anyways, it's good news. Ukrainian forces continued offensive actions on the Kupiansk-Svatove Crimea line on September 28th and reportedly recently advanced. And that's what these, clicking on that doesn't do any good. But that's what these circles are. The blue is freshly taken territory. You can see a little bit of blue there. And the circles are where they're basically in combat and advancing, most likely. Those don't show advances unless it's blue, but there is expectations that and belief that the Ukrainians are advancing in several places. I'm not going to go detailed into this map, but I wanted to show you. So this is just to get your sort of lay of the land here, right? So this is Andrew Pepecha's amazing map, and it shows red is Russian, blue is Ukrainian, and then these eyes are basically things that you should take note of, right? So first of all, Tokmak. So here's where that jet was shot down. And so you can see that there's no way a Ukrainian jet would have flown all this way on its own over Tokmak to be shot down. It doesn't happen. But what I wanted to point out to you is this is where the operation, OPSEC, this is where the cone of silence is. And while there's a cone of silence, there's always information available if you have the best sources or you look hard enough. So first of all, Andrew Pepecha, when he prepares this map, it's beautiful. He puts directional arrows on. And sometimes if you see it's like a back and forth or it's a stalemate, you'll see either no arrows or you'll see like a blue arrow one way and a red arrow the other, like this. When you see Andrew has indicated that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 long blue arrows at least by the Ukrainians, and there's 2 small ones by the Russians. So basically the Ukrainians are widening. All of these yellow areas here are all contested, and at least contested, if not taken now by the Ukrainians. And so for example, over here in Verbove, the Ukrainians are pushing north of Verbove. They're pushing into Verbove. We've actually got video of them in the western outskirts of the town, at least the last one we got, and they're going south and south. And if you see here, there's fields. So for example, knowing that this information is basically based on is based on secondhand accounts, artillery shelling, that sort of thing. If you think this area here is basically, there's a Surovikin line trench, and then it's basic undefended all the way through. So if the Ukrainians, which I believe they have already, but if the Ukrainians burst through that line, get some light to medium mechanized troops, units, etc., to cross that line and start to go along the southern flank of Verbove. Anybody defending in Verbove and anybody north of Verbove is going to get the be aware really, really quick that they're being encircled. And you see, we've already got a salient here, largest salient if you count that, largest salient if you count that. If the Ukrainians are able to circle around Verbove and come up anywhere through the south, up through these towns, up past these towns, they could basically cut off huge swaths of land and huge amounts of Russian troops. To give you an idea of what's going on in this area too, even though there's basically the cone of silence. So if we start with so what are these here? These are drone attacks, right? So these are confirmed over the last 24 to 36 hours, I think it is roughly, that Andrew updates, but he updates it once a day at least. You've got oh, sorry, is that? Yeah, that's an airstrike. Sorry, airstrike. So those are all airstrikes. Another one, that's a shelling. So that's into Ukraine's rear lines, so to speak. And then if you look at this is typically artillery, light to moderate shelling. So this is like shelling impacts if you see over there, right? Same thing there. So somebody's shelling there. Well, typically when you see shelling on a front line like that, typically it is whoever's advancing is typically getting shelled by whoever's retreating. So in this case, the Ukrainians have been advancing and the Russians are basically shelling what used to be their front lines not too long ago. And then the same thing here. You look at here, satellite imagery, moderate shelling. Oh, that's heavy shelling. So heavy shelling in the south. So basically the pock marks in these images are a lot heavier, but basically shows like there's a lot going on. Light to moderate shelling. And then you see all of these other ones too, right? Russian shelling, confirmed Russian shelling, right? So the other ones, so you see all of these front lines. Russians don't shell where they are. So if they're shelling all along here, that definitely means the map is accurate. They've fallen back into these red zones and they are starting to shell the areas that they used to hold. And then here is Ukrainian shelling into the Russian back lines. There's Ukraine damaged the Russian MRAP, etc. So I just wanted to point that out to you. There was a lot going on here. This is the area that you want to focus on, keep an eye on. It is where a lot of action is taking place, but where no information is coming out of from the Ukrainian military or intelligence services so far. So I expect to hear about a breakthrough in one or more areas in this salient in the near future. We'll see. In good news, this is if you know about the fact that the Wagner in Mali is having a tough time. They've got locals all rising up to basically attack them, take them on, and the Russian Wagner supported by government forces are there as well. Well, I've never heard of this group, but the MENA group captured the base of the Malian armed forces and the Wagnerites in Timbuktu. You can see the trophies in the video in a rich way. The result, losses among the junta and the Russian terrorists, and the DEM left with trophies. So you can basically see its equipment, its vehicles, its arms, etc. So motorcycles. So these were all either property of the Wagner or the government forces that support and work with Wagner. There's an anti-air. I used to know the name. I can't think of the name of it. I think that's anti-air, is it? Or is that the... Oh, no, sorry, it's not. It looked like the anti-air bracket. But anyways, these trucks are technicals. They've all got machine guns on the back, some sort of heavy weaponry. So pales in comparison to what you see in like Ukraine, for example. But at the same time, this is, you know, yet another success and another setback. A success for the locals, for the tribesmen, and a setback for Wagner and Wagner supporters. But they did a really good job displaying these like they're on sale. Um, Yeah, so it's when you see people aren't stupid, right? When they've got the internet, they've got the news, that sort of thing. So when you see these local tribesmen that have been displaced, been treated, oh look at all the phones, jeez, and walkie-talkies, laptops, etc. So they got a ton of equipment, some RPGs, mortars, when the locals in a country or area that have been mistreated by Wagner, by Russia, by the government, etc., see online, see in the news that Russia's weakening, that Prigozhin's been eliminated, that Wagner's falling apart, being disassembled by the Russians, then all of a sudden, people who maybe were worried about the big bad Russian military coming to get them if they rose up, now they know that's not going to happen. So you've got Kyrgyzstan stepping up, Kazakhstan stepping up. You've got the Mali local tribes stepping up. Like, and they're basically like, we're not going to fear the big bad Russian bear anymore. I'm assuming that's the outskirts of the base that they took. To be honest with you, I stopped watching before this because I thought it was all just an equipment show off. But this base, whatever, has been hit pretty good. There's a couple of active fires going. There's another angle of it from the other side, it looks like, maybe. Some technicals driving around. There's your big gun. Big gun on a small truck. Those are the tanks of Africa, those pickup trucks with guns in the back. In other news, I don't have much context for this other than to say that Taliban officials are in the Kremlin and most likely visited with Putin. The Taliban. And the Taliban are under fire too in Afghanistan. There are some local freedom fighters that have been taking it out on the Taliban, and the Iranians have had some issues with them, that sort of thing. So, in I don't know, what is this? Copium? It's just bad, just horrible thought process, like propagandists on Russian One, which is one of their main propaganda, main television. Illustrated the news about the improvement in Kaliningrad today. You know, Kaliningrad, that basically, that separate area of Russia on the Baltic Sea. But instead of using footage of Kaliningrad and how beautiful it looks, they use the Polish city of Elblag. That is not Kaliningrad, that is Poland. Kaliningrad looks nothing like that, I can promise you that. And that's what they put on Russia One State TV to basically say, look how good Kaliningrad looks. Oh, darn it. I meant to pause that. I didn't want to blow that. Okay, so you've seen those TikTok videos that the Kadyrovites, for example, are famous for. The Russians can't even execute a good TikTok video, but basically it looks like this little military truck was supposed to pull up and open up the back doors, and then they were going to do a spectacular exfil of the Russian troops inside, and all basically spread out in formation. And here's what they did. Brakes on, doors open. Watch the second guy out. He looks like he's drunk too. guy goes staggering off to the left, like, Jesus, what happened? So I don't know if that was like their fifth take and they're all dizzy or what, but I just thought that would be something that would crack you up. This is I debated whether or not showing this guy or not. He's a windbag, but unfortunately he's got a bad history. We will destroy 1 million, 2, 3, 5 million Ukrainians. We will destroy them, but we will win. Pavlo Gubarev, terrorist, Russian army soldier, Ukrainian collaborator with Russian separatist political and public figure, the so-called Donetsk People's Republic, who participated in pro-Russian protests in Ukraine in 2014.
У нас выбор-то не велик. Мы можем либо победить, либо проиграть. Мирное соглашение тактически может быть, но в том, что замерить эту ситуацию, когда, по сути, мы пришли в конфликт на уничтожение, то есть или мы их, или они нас. У меня в Википедию добавили цитату, где я говорю, что мы победим.
And that is so not true, because he knows and everybody else knows, no, it's not we kill them or they will kill us. No, you stop and you leave and Ukraine will not follow.
Им все равно мы уничтожим 1, 2, 3, 5 миллионов украинцев уничтожим, но победим. И они это прям большой цитатой. И это не от моей кровожадности, это просто факт. Нам придется или победить, или проиграть. А проиграть — это деколонизация России, расчленение ее и грабеж.
It's just, well, a fact. We have to win or lose. To lose the decolonization of Russia, dismemberment and looting tenfold, impoverishment of the population, that's all happened on your own watch. Extinction of its indigenous population. Well, the indigenous population is becoming extinct, especially the minorities, because the fact that Putin's conscription was heavily focused on areas outside of St. Petersburg and Moscow, and like in Dagestan and Chechnya and and all of the steppes in other oblasts or whatever with poor and minorities, etc. They were basically the lion's share of people came from there and went to the front lines and have all died. So they're depopulating Russia, and they're depopulating the ethnic Russian population through specified conscription, if you want to call it that.
Различными этническими группами мигрантов и освобождение планеты от русского народа. Я так это называю. Задача стоит так. У нас.
Anyways, that's what they have to deal with. This video is sad, and it's kind of like a time lapse. It's showing before and after of some famous landmarks in Ukraine. I wish it was.
Справа, що у мене немає дому, і за правилом доброго тону, як за правилом доброго ременя, згадаю, з якого я племені, пригадаю, з якого міста, я чекаю на свої береги, мені просто нема де сісти. Справа, що у мене немає дому.
That is Russian liberation, air quote, in a nutshell for you. Tell me this is gonna. So we show the Russians messing up with their weapon systems a lot. Sometimes you got to show the good guys doing the same. Unsuccessful use of a Swedish AT-4 anti-tank grenade launcher. I believe this is the Carl G. It's time to read the instructions. So, not only, I believe he's holding it backwards, and I believe he's got the cap on as well. I've never quite seen this happen before the way it happens. This is a recoilless rifle. So basically when you fire, if this is truly a Carl G, I think it is. But either way, first of all, he's lucky to be alive. Second of all, it should not have the recoil that it did. And third, obviously, the bang is supposed to come out the front, and the smoke and the backwash is supposed to come out the back, hence the name backwash. But watch.
Ну давай попробуй.
And I don't know why he's aiming it up that high. This is this is an AT-4. It stands anti-tank, right? So you can fire a Carl G or any type of weapon like this at an air asset if it's close enough and not moving too fast. This is not one of those things. He is in a forest of white pines. I don't know what he's aiming at. I don't even know why he's firing this and wasting ammo, but trigger's on the wrong spot, so it's clearly backwards. Did you see what he had to do there? Watch how he has to twist his thumb around. If you have to twist your thumb around over the top and then turn your hand around backwards to get that trigger, watch what he does with his right hand. See what he's doing there? You never... There's not a weapon in the world that you fire by putting your hand over the top of it and turning it around sideways.
Братан, ти її не
One more
вдержав,
time.
їбать. Ну давай попробуй.
The cap's closed. God. He is lucky that thing did not blow apart. He's lucky it was well made and didn't blow apart. He's gonna have hearing problems. If there was a tree or something behind him and that came back like this, he's very, very lucky to be alive. This is from World War II, probably from like Auschwitz or something like that. Never again. This is from a couple of days ago in a prisoner's cell. That is a Ukrainian POW who did not go in looking like that. I can guarantee you that. Never again. Again. This is a Russian POW in Ukrainian jail, prison, whatever. He is well fed. He's probably gained weight. He looks happy, glowing, well fed. That is a Ukrainian POW in Russian hands. That is what we fight for. In other news, and sorry, bit of a morose turn here or whatever, but it is what it is. This is the grave of a recently fallen Ukrainian hero. And that's his dog. And he won't leave it. Man, the best friend. All right. Let's do a little John Sweeney War Diary. Yeah, I got something in my eye again. Love John Sweeney. British journalist, what was he? Times? BBC? BBC. Maybe both. But anyways, ex-BBC journalist, whatever. He's hosting a Vladimir Putin Do F Off festival. Just an all-around good guy.
War Diary Day 582 of Russia's war against Ukraine. Don't forget the war. Don't forget the kids who should be running around. But they've lost their legs because of Russian cruise missiles have hit Kramatorsk railway station. Don't forget the war because of the dead and the dead to come. Don't forget the war because Ukraine is fighting our war for us. Remember, I think we in the West, we've forgotten that democracy must be defended, that free speech does not come free. This is why me and my Ukrainian pals are holding the Vladimir Putin Do Fuck Off Festival on his 71st birthday, October the 7th, and the next day, October the 8th, celebrating everything that's good and fun about Ukraine. Music, food,
Comedy.
fashion, love, life, stories about the war too.
I think he's got some comedians too.
And we're doing it to raise money for a basket of Ukrainian charities, but also we're doing it because we want to remind people, we want to say to people and the comfortable West, don't forget the war. That's why I'm back here in Ukraine. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Everybody else too. help us with our festival or give money to charities. I know times are hard. To charities that support Ukraine. I know times are hard. But really, this is a fight between good and evil. Oh, and
Vladimir Putin.
Do fuck off.
So that's his calling card. He always says that at the end. He always wears the orange hat. John Sweeney was originally, way back in the day, I think around Bakhmut actually, but he was originally way back in the day, arrested by a Ukrainian soldier or border patrol or whatever, who basically thought that he was a spy. I don't know if he had the orange hat on at that point, but since then he's always worn the orange hat, and people have seen him coming from a distance, and he's basically said it's his calling card. It prevents him from being shot by friendly forces, might make him an easier target for Russians, etc. He's actually met Vladimir Putin and basically kind of gave him a little what for. So he's a true gem, and he's a great guy. And to his point too, I'm sorry, I know I grabbed an article I wanted to show you, but is it coming up? No? Okay. Hang on. Real quick. So people talk about the cost of war, that sort of thing, what it costs to economy. So somebody broke down, Canada is one of the larger contributors to the war effort in Ukraine, over $9 billion, I think so. And they broke it down basically by the percentage of GDP, the percentage of the military budget. It was like, a very small percentage of both. And then they broke it down per Canadian. And they basically said the war is costing each Canadian to support it 8 cents a day. 8 cents a day, right? That's $2.40 a month. It adds up. But across a population of 35 million people, you're not going to feel the impact, right? It's not coming out of someone else's pot of money, and it's a small price to pay. When you think about the fact that since 1945 and on, we have basically spent trillions of dollars between all of the Western countries, arming and rearming and upgrading ourselves for that ultimate war against Russia. Really is what it's been since 1945. So that's like, what, 78 years. 78 years of building up your military for a war that could come, and then you upgrade your tanks, you upgrade your fighter planes, you upgrade your weapons, and then the Russians maybe do the same or whatever. And it's the big bad Russians, and we spend more, and we keep on doing that year in and year out for a war that has never come, thank goodness. Proxy wars in Afghanistan and places like that, but the war never came. Now all of a sudden Ukraine is fighting that war for us, and for less than 3% of the Canadian budget, and for less than 5% of the US military budget, Ukraine is wiping out our number one geopolitical adversary for the last 78 years. So I think it's worth the cost. This young woman, her grandmother wrote her, she's a Crimean Tatar descendant, or currently Crimean Tatar. I don't know where she's living right now, but her grandmother wrote her this song and used to sing it to her. And so it's just a personal song. It's not a famous song or anything like that. And she decided that she was going to, she remembered the melody and the words, so she asked her friend to record it. And I thought it'd be a beautiful thing to just hear somebody sing something from Crimea that was written for them long ago and sung to them long ago by their grandmother. I'm sure somewhere her grandmother is very, very pleased at hearing that song living on. And last, tougher end of the show, so I thought I'd definitely crush you with cuteness overload. Right? Oh my god, so cute. Anyways, that's it. Please subscribe, please like, please share, please tell someone you love them. Slava Ukraini. Have a great day.